Hi everyone, we are going on Halloween today and I'm going to turn this book into something like this, only it's going to be spooky, and I want it to have to be like a box and that I could put some things inside. Of course you can put candy if you want. Now I'm not doing Halloween, I'm Jewish, but I do like all kinds of spooky things and witches and spells and whatnot, so that's what we are going to do, and I will have it for not Halloween, but I will have it for other things. So found this in the street. I only have one volume of this dictionary, but it was big enough, and what you need is a book with hardcover, and it needs to be old now, not antique, but old enough that the pages are not glued into the spine. You need this thing that it doesn't connect to the spine. Now in the past when I've done things like this, and I think I have another example. No, okay, so in the past this was a book I would cut into the pages, but this is tedious and it takes a lot of time, and it's just, I'm not doing it again. I'm going to go a different way. I think it's going to be easier, so here we go. And that's why we need a book with this kind of spine. So opening the book, and what you need to do is take an X-Acto knife or utility knife or whatever comes more easier for you, and you need to detach all these signatures, all these pages from your cover. And yes, it does need some time, but it's not like trying to dig inside the pages until you've got enough room for a box. So that's what I'm going now, and it seems like it's done very strong here, and I need to do it carefully so I won't puncture the cover. So it's going to take me some time, but it's going to be worth it, and it's already starting to detach. I'm just trying to put the knife like this and not like this, because if I'm going like this, it's going into the cover, although the cover is going to get a lot of texture and stuff on it, so even if I have one hole in it, it won't matter. So as I said, this is going to take a little bit of time until I can detach it, and you can also try and get in between here and try to take it apart. So I'm going to work on it and then I'll come back. Here we go. So it took me about 5 minutes to detach it because there was a little bit of glue here, so I needed to use some muscle, but I've done it. You have the cover, and do not throw this away. First of all, this page you can stamp it and make your own ephemera. It has like a more darkened edges, and it can be any kind of vintage material for other projects. All this is great. You can wipe out excess paint, you can do all, spray it, cut from it, do many things. So moving this aside, now we are going to make the box, and for this you need some cheap board, gray board, anything that can be the size of the book. And there are all kind. Now you can use corrugated board, but I'm not recommending it. because it's susceptible for too much water. So if you are using, you want to paint it, and paint will have some kind of water in it, so it's a problem. If you can avoid it, avoid it. Now, a gray board or a cheap board, I'm always saving what I have in at the back of all kinds of paper pads. So this is one source for it if you don't want to buy it. And if you got a framing store near you, all kinds of leftovers from the frames that you put in the back also, if you can get your hands on it. And if all else you don't have all this stuff, then you can use things like a cereal box. Now this is quite thin, it's not good for the sides of the box, but if you take two and glue them to each other, then you have it will be more firm. Even three layers of something like that. And I recommend to use this on the outside and the glossy side on the inside, because this is good for paint, this is not. If you are using this side, it needs to be you need to use sandpaper on it and gesso and all kinds, so you can do anything on it because it's glossy. So moving on, so I want to create the box, and sadly it needs to be measured, but I still got this. So the only thing that I need to measure is this length and this one, and of course I need to measure here the spine, because that's the thickness of the box. So first of all, I'm going, this is okay, a 20.5 centimeters, and of course whatever book you have chosen, just measure how it's easier for you. If you are using inches, go for it. And let's take a pencil. I'm going to use this gray board. Let's see, let's measure like so, and I have this. Now I want to measure my spine, or I can measure here, and I have approximately 4 centimeters with 2 millimeters. So this is how the the width of the box. So here it is. I'm gonna measure it here also, and I need two pieces. One is going here, one is going here, and I will need two pieces for here and here to make the box. And I'm going to do the same measuring, and then I'm going to cut it. Now for the cutting, I'm just going to use a cutting mat like so, just easier to use the lines on the cutting mat as a guide. I'm just going to show you because it's really not interesting to watch me cut pieces. So I can do like this, and I've got here. Now it's a little bit difficult because of this. Let's take it out of the spiral and putting it, I'm aligning it on the lines on the mat, and that's why it's easier. And now I have this two so I already got one piece that is going to go here and be one side of the box, and I will need another one here and again here and here. So I'm going to cut the pieces and then I'm going to come back. Okay, got my pieces. Now attaching them to create the box. I'm using, this is silicone glue. You can use a glue gun, whatever works for you. And I'm starting with this side. Now I'm putting down some here, and I'm using silicone glue because it's strong and it dries fast. And I'm just going to close it. It's runny and I don't want it to spill. And I'm placing it here, and you will need, if you are not using a glue gun, then you will need to hold it until it's in place. If it's a glue gun, then it's almost instantly. So I'm holding it. Yeah, fun times. And of course I will attach the other pieces like so. And if you want to make sure that it stays in place and that you have the right angle, then I'm going to just put it like this so it won't fall while I'm showing you. Okay, just stay. So I've got a leftover pieces. Just take a piece, a triangle that you will have a 90-degree angle here, and if you want all the pieces to be the same, then just take the one that you cut to another corner like so. And now I can glue it, one here, and then I will make sure that I have the 90-degree angle between the pieces. Is it in place? It seems so. Okay, so now I want the other piece, and again now I'm going to put a little bit glue here that will go like this, and on here and here. You can also use E6000, and it's also strong and fast. Again, whatever works for you. And now if I want to ensure the 90-degree angle, then I'm putting this triangle here. Yeah, I know. Go. Now it's in place like so, and I'm going to do the other sides the same way. So I'll be back. And we've got the box. Now for the fun part of decorating and making it a spooky book. And I'm going to show you so many ways to do it, and it's all with stuff you've got at home. First of all, you are starting with putting some texture, and it can be subtle and it can be not. You can do whatever you want. I'm starting with, first thing you can use is the white backing of paper napkins. Showed you before in all kinds of other projects. Just glue, scrunch it up, and start laying it on gluing it to the back to this cover. If you want something more prominent in terms of texture, tissue paper, doesn't matter what color it is, if it's printed, not printed, you just again scrunch it and glue it to your cover. Another way to go about it, paper towels. They are also great for creating texture. You can use if you have a thin fabric, also goes nicely and for a texture. And if you want, you can do texture with some modeling paste or a joint compound with stencils. I'm going to show you several examples just to show you how easy it is. So, and also all the colors that you can do and how it affects the outcome. So here it's just a stencil with a black paint, and the highlights are with a gold gilding paste. So here it's the stencil. Here I've got gauze. Any gauze you have from your first aid kit can work. Just play with it, open it, and do some holes inside and just play with it. So this is one example, and here I've got some paper napkins in the back. As you can see, it's very subtle what's going on here. This is some kind of ribbon and chipboard that I had, just playing with all kinds of stuff, and I'm going to show you how to make these ridges for the spine. Another example, here I think this was also a paper napkin in the back, so it's more subtle, the texture, and this is made with a glue gun, so you can also add texture with the glue gun. And these were some chipboard pieces I had. More examples here. This is done with I don't know if I have it, it's from the hardware store. It's kind of aluminum. Here it is, I've got it. This, it has adhesive in the back, and I'm just took little pieces, scrunched them, glued to the box, and then made black and silver accent. So and this is also a glue gun, all this here. So another way to go about it, and it's all things that you can have cheaply, buy cheaply, or have already at home. Again, this is tissue paper in the back, so you can see the texture is more coarse, and I've got some modeling paste with a stencil here, some glue gun, more stencil, just playing with all kinds of pieces. I had all kinds of knickknacks that I've glued and just went over it. So lots of ways to go about it, and first of all I'm going to put some ridges here on the spine, and for that I'm going to use a craft foam. And craft foam is usually easier to find in a craft for kids in the store, and there are also ones with adhesive in the back, so it's even easier to use, but you don't have to have the ones that have adhesive in the back. So what I'm going to do is just see the width of my spine, something like that. And as you can see, I'm not measuring, and I'm just going to take like 3 pieces to make ridges on my spine. and just putting one on top of each other to instead of measuring. So I think the adhesive is not so good, so I'm going to peel it, but I'm going to add some glue, I think. Oh, no, it's okay. So I'm just eyeballing it and putting it on, and if I think it's too much like here, then I can just trim it. Nothing to it. It's another thing that's going to get covered with a lot of texture, so you don't have to worry about it. Another one. Like so. I'm going to trim it a little bit. Yeah. And just one more, and it seems a little bit crooked, so I'm just cutting. Okay, last one. Good enough. I'm gonna trim a little bit again. Really doesn't matter. So now for the texture on here, I think I'm gonna go, let's take some white glue, and I think, do I want it subtle? Do I want it, let's take the backing of a paper napkin. So just going to put some glue, and I'm going to do it quickly because this is just the first layer, and here is also a place that we are going to do all kinds of layers, not only in art journaling or painting. So got a lot of glue, got the back of a paper napkin, one ply, and I'm going to let it stick out of my cover because later I want to fold it inside. So just sticking it here like this, and of course now you decide how much wrinkles you want. And once I decided this is good enough, I'm just going to take the brush and go over it like so. Now if it's easier for you, you can just tear it to smaller pieces, and even if you put it on and you don't feel like it's enough, you can always take another piece and glue it down. I can decide that I don't have enough texture here. I can take a part of paper napkin and glue it down here and add texture. So now we are just putting down texture on this cover, and of course it's going to go also on the spine and all around like so. And I'm gonna just scrunch it and have more wrinkles. I'm pushing the paper napkin into all the dents I have here, and basically this is it for this stage. You just take pieces or a whole backing and just scrunch it and glue it down however you feel. Lots and lots of wrinkles. I want lots and lots of wrinkles like so, and I'm going over it, making sure it goes into all the nooks and crannies. Now, if you are working with the backing of a paper napkin, it's better to add water to your white glue so it will slide and not drag the paper napkin. If you're working with tissue paper or paper towels, then it's not needed. They are more sturdy than the paper napkins. So I'm going to go all around and do this, and I'm going to wait a lot of time until it's dry, and then I'll come back. Okay, so it took a long time to dry. I also added some gauze here, and the more texture, the more glue, the more time it will take to dry. To save time, I've already gessoed the underside and the inside with black gesso. There will be here also right now we are going, as I said, to the fun part, and it's decorating our book. And I've got all kinds of very cheap old things, Halloween, like even a plastic ring with a spider, and all kinds of stuff to decorate. So I really want a skeleton, and I wanted maybe some pumpkins, like so. I don't know, I'm gonna play with it and we'll see where it goes. Maybe this one is a little bit too big here, I don't know. Let's see, I've got some bat maybe here in the corner, and I think I will use some spiders. What's great with this all kinds of plastics is they are cheap, and also you can cut them, so I can remove this piece and still have a nice spider. Let's see, maybe I have other pumpkins, not as big. Let's see, I don't know, I'll play with it. So I think I want something more, I want to stencil. I want some kind of like a frame to this, I was going to say page, and it's not page. Our journaling, and this is a cover, and I'm going with this. I'm going to use joint compound. That's what I use. I buy it in a big bucket in the hardware store. If you have modeling paste, then use modeling paste. I just like to use the joint compound. So here it is, and some, you can use any kind of flat surface, like any plastic card. So I'm just putting down some, and the great thing about this, it doesn't need to be great. If it's broken and distressed is even better, because we are doing spooky, and it's on top of the all this texture underneath, so it also doesn't go lost my words. So it's looking distressed, and it's good for this project. A little bit here. I'm very generous with the amount of the joint compound, like so. Don't really care, don't know how much of it you can see right now. So I've got a lot of leftover here on stencil. Never let either a modeling paste or any kind of paste dry on your stencil. So I'm just taking one of my wipe up notebooks and just scraping whatever is left here. And that's how you get painty papers and all kinds of stuff to use in other projects. Okay, this is going here to dry. The stencil I need to clean fast so the leftovers won't dry, and this needs to dry completely before I'm doing anything to it. Now I'm just going to play with the elements here, and then I'll come back. Okay, so I've decided what I'm going to put on here, and I'm just going to start adhering it to the cover. Now, the only time I use a gel medium is now, because I've got all kinds of elements, especially plastic. If I have plastic or metal, then I use gel medium. I don't really like the feel of it, but it does the work. Of course, there are all kinds of other adhesive out there. And this is not cheap, but if you are looking for something that will be strong, and most likely you will find it at the hardware store. Or there is also, you can also use a glue gun for some of the stuff, and a 6000. Just go with what you can have. So I'm going to use the gel medium. And another thing, it really doesn't matter the color of whatever you picked to decorate your cover, because it's all going to get covered with gesso and then with paint. So it really doesn't matter if the spiders are orange or black or whatever. So let's put the bat here. Generous amount of this gel medium. Seems like it's enough. Maybe I will add a little bit more. I want it to stick nicely. So I'm starting with, let's see, yeah, something like that. So again, just putting some gel medium like so. Put too much here, never mind. These are cutouts from a craft foam, and I just someone sent them to me in Happy Mail. I don't have the machine that do all this die cuts. Okay, got the pumpkins. Now I'm gonna cut no. Sometimes you need something more. Okay, so I've got the spider. I think it's going here. Yeah, one spider here. Now I want to just play with the skeleton. First of all, I'm just removing it. Has like a loop on its head, and I'm going to I'm sorry, I'm going to dissect him at the joints. I want him to try and put him like he's leaning on this pumpkin pile. So let's see if he can manage it. Okay. One. Now it doesn't want to work. Okay, so it's quite well white, and you can't see much, I believe. And I think, yeah, I'm gonna also cut here. Okay, so what I want to do is put him here, and like he's leaning like so, and maybe the leg is going like this. Yeah, that's what I'm up to. So I'm going to do this, and I want at least 2 more spiders. Let's see, 1 more spider here. And another one here. Yeah, so that's going to be the composition. I'm going to adhere all these pieces, and when it's dry I will come back, and then we are moving to the paint. Yay! Okay, so everything is dry now for the next phase, and it's black gesso. If you don't have black gesso, use white gesso. Don't have white gesso, there are all kinds of recipes out there on YouTube. Well, when I want to have some kind of gesso, what I'm doing is taking, if it's white, then white acrylic paint with baby powder talc, and if it's black, then I will take black acrylic paint with talc. So I'm covering everything with black gesso, and if your gesso is a little bit thick, then just dip your brush with water, and so it will get into all these details, so it won't be like putting spackle on top of everything, and then you will lose your texture. So just add a little bit of water, and it will be easier to get into all these details. So as you can see, just covering everything with the black gesso. Now I'm using black gesso because I know that I want to use dark colors on top, so it's better to have black underneath than white. And then if you would put white gesso, it will be harder to cover, and so it won't pick from underneath. That's the only reason I'm using the black gesso. And also the gesso is a great primer. I know that sometimes it's really tempting to just go and start painting, but you have all kinds of elements on here, and it's better to have a great primer instead of just jumping and trying to apply paint without primer. Another thing is, when you're putting a gesso on top of any kind of a cardboard from both sides, then it not only it's primed for paint, it's also more durable. It makes the cardboard harder, so it's great. And of course you need to do it from both sides. If you're doing it only from one side, then it won't stay straight, it will buckle. So that's the thing to do. And as you can see, I'm just trying to get inside and cover everything. So I'm going to continue until all of this is covered, and then we are going to start the painting. I'll be back. Okay, we're starting to paint, and it's really a personal choice. I decided to use these colors. I've got black, I've got chestnut, I've got Bordeaux, and tomato red. Now, another thing that's great with putting gesso, like we did, is that the paint won't seep into quickly, and so you can play with it and mix it. Now, I'm using the black at the edges, and I know it's black on black, but now it's acrylic paint. So I'm putting the black here. I need more black. Okay, so I'm keeping the black to the edges, and then I'm starting to load other colors like the chestnut, the Bordeaux, and I'm just letting them mix. And that's what great with the gesso, it lets me play with the colors. I can also put directly in several places and just let everything mix. Now I prefer to have the inside lighter and the edges darker, and again, just personal preference. Do what feels right to you and use whatever colors you want. It doesn't have to be all kinds of reds and browns, and it doesn't have to be black at all. You can go with dark blue and light blue and whatever feels right to you. You can go green, whatever feels like. So I'm playing with the colors, and as you can see, I'm mixing them as I go until I feel that's the color that I want. And after this is dry, I'm going to start bringing in highlights. And you can do it with plain acrylic paint or with all kinds of metallic paint, and we'll talk about it in a minute. I feel like I need more of the red to mix in, so a little bit more red, especially in this area. And if I feel it doesn't work, I can always wait for it to dry completely and then add more. But basically this is it. So I've got this, and I need for it to dry completely before I apply the highlights. The highlights are going to be on all the texture. It's going to pick all the texture we have here, if it's in the background or if it's in the foreground, like our focal image, the skeleton. So I prefer to use metallics, and you can use either acrylic paints or all kinds of gilding waxes. These are expensive, that's why I'm saying you can use acrylics, and some are calling those rub and buff. Again, don't know, we don't have them here, so I don't know if it's cheap or not, if it's accessible or not, but you can use plain acrylic paints. I am going to use some copper on here and maybe a little bit of gold. I want to play with it. I'm just going to wait for this to dry. Now, just so we will see, I've already done the underside of this book box. Here it is. Again, the same colors, and then I went with copper wax. This is Patina Antique by stump area and went over all these details. I'm going to do the same thing here in the spine, keeping the black to the edges, lighter color here in the middle, and then pick all the details with the copper wax. So I'm going to let this dry and I'll come back. I'm back. So I'm going to show you how you can do the highlights with acrylic paint. You just take acrylic paint, and what you need is a hard bristle brush, and you need to dry brush on all your texture and make sure that your paint is getting inside, but you don't have excess, almost nothing, and it would be it will take time, but it's better to go easy and like this instead of because you are not painting, you're just picking up the details, all the texture, all this lovely texture you have. So I'm just dipping my brush and almost like cleaning my brush, the excess paint on this paper, and I'm just picking up all the details. Now the bronze on this background is quite subtle, but I want it to be like this. It looks like almost like some kind of patina on a leather, and of course it's all a personal choice, as I've showed you before with other projects I've done. You can do whatever color you want, just have fun with it. I will show you more here. So you can really do whatever you like. Now I'm planning on continuing with this copper, bronze, I don't know, all over, and I'm thinking that I will pick gold only for my skeleton, so it would stand up more on all this background. So I'm keeping the bronze to the back, and as I said, this is some kind of gilding wax. If you are using something like this, then take a little bit like so, and I'm using my finger. I'm just smearing it until I have it on my finger and just going like this. So it's whatever you have or whatever is your personal choice to use, and you can mix colors and have fun with it. So you see how it picks all the details, if it's the wrinkles from the paper napkin, if it's the modeling paste or joint compound that I've used, or we've got the gauze here. I'm also going over the skeleton, but later on I'm thinking of adding, as I said, the gold, so it would stand up more. Now when you're doing something like this, if you have texture that goes like this way, then try to brush the other way. That's a sure way to pick up the details without covering everything. That's how it will only pick the ridges, all this lovely texture. And look how it's starting to come together, everything, and not just look like a black mess. Same thing here in the spine, picking up the texture. So Let's take a little bit of the gold. I'm not even cleaning my brush. Now these acrylic paints are kind of thick, and they also dried a little bit, but it's fine for this purpose that they are thicker than most acrylic paints. Okay, so a little bit, I'm adding a little bit of gold also on the spiders. And let's put a little bit more on the pumpkins, on the top of them. So now I've got some highlights on the top of the pumpkins, and a little bit adding gold here to my bat. One bat out of hell. So much fun making this stuff. I'm adding a little bit of gold in several places because, as I said, there is no rules, just having fun with it. Okay, so I'm just going to continue with the spine now. Another thing, I've covered my inside also with black gesso and then with the paint. You can leave it as is. You can again add some metallics just for the fun of it. You can put some like a red velvet for that matter and have fun with it. I'm planning on covering this side with some scrapbook paper. Of course, I could also have done the same texture here and continued the same thing from here, but I decided that I just want to cover it here. Okay, so I'm going to finish the spine, and well, if I'm already have here the brush, I will just add a little bit of the metallic, copper, bronze, whatever, here in several places. Not that it matter too much. I'm planning on putting candy inside, so it really doesn't matter, but if you want, go for it. As I said, you can add all kinds of stuff. Okay, another thing I'm going to use is for finishing this book. I'm going to take, I've got another brush, hard bristles. This is also with some paint that just got dried on it, and I've left it as is. Why? I will show you. Because I'm going to take the gold and I'm going to do something like this, and it's great that I have the hard bristles, just as if I have gold on the pages of the book. So that's what I'm going to do on all the sides. Basically, almost this is it for the book. I'm going to finish all the metallics and I'll be back. Okay, so everything is finished with the metallics, and now I just want to finish here the inside. I've picked this scrapbook paper and I've gone over the edges with this kind of thing just to distress it. You can also use scissors and go around and just distress the edges. And now I'm going to take a black ink pad and I'm going to go over the edges like so. Okay, just a little bit of glue now, and I want to add a little bit more ink. I don't want to use anything more wet here, I'm just going to put some ink on top of this scrapbook paper just to distress it, and so it won't look perfect. Okay, just finishing touches. So this is here, taking some makeup brush and just going like this. We don't want clean, we don't want perfect. It's a spooky box, whatever. I can also take some, let's take some brown, dark brown, really doesn't matter, just so it won't look pristine. Basically, this is it. That's my book box trick-or-treating, spooky, whatever. And it's still a little bit of wet. Now, if you really want to save it and that it would be great and will keep for years, I'm recommending to go over everything with varnish. Now I use a water-based varnish, and you can find it at the hardware store, and it's cheaper than any kind of varnish that will be sold in craft or art supplies store. So this is it. I hope you like it. I hope you'll try and do something like it. So thank you for watching, and thank you for leaving me comments down below. I'll be seeing you in my next video. Bye for now.